Hello, everybody. It is us. It's Tom and Zach with the Drifters Atlas. We are here with episode, I think, like 11. Is that right?
11, yep.
Episode 11 of our Ascension world building stream. We are working in Filigree and what is the name of the other one? In Stormtide Union today. Mostly going to start here in Filigree, working out some of that cask system again.
Mm-hmm.
We are there's some great things to talk about. We are approaching our first giveaway. So here on our Twitch channel, we are going to give away when we hit 50 followers. So tell your friends, tell your family. This is going to be a really cool giveaway. So
We wouldn't
come,
have it any other way.
yeah, come let people know what we're doing here, and share our page, share our Facebook. We are still quite a bit of ways from our Facebook goal, but our goal is when we hit 1,000 followers on Facebook, we're gonna do a giveaway. And we're exponentially growing, but that's going to be a little bit. Other than that, we last week we did a lot of things. We did Zach and I played and we ran games in Jasper's Game Day.
Yep.
On Jasper's Game Day, we raised altogether we raised like $33,000 for suicide prevention, which is awesome, which is just fantastic, and that's not just us. That is the entire stream raised that. We were just a small part.
Yeah.
But then last night we were playing Dungeon Deterrent, and so the game that Zach runs, the game that Zach created, and that was a lot of fun. We almost all died. Zach almost wiped the party in episode 1, so that would have
It's a
been
close thing.
really awesome. But other than that, we're today. I think that's pretty much it for our our notices. We're gonna hop into Filigree and see where this takes us.
Absolutely. Let me see. We what did help me remember, Tom? What all did we learn about Filigree last week?
Filigree is the Silver City. The primary race is Dragonborn, and we talked about that being um, sort of the upper class. It's surrounded by water. The man-made channels around the city, so they can move boats in and out of the continent without passing the pirate domain. Sort of has ramshackle outskirts. As the city has expanded, there are a large area of wharfs on either side. We talked about some sort of freshwater situation where they have some sort of turbine that pulls the salt out of the water. Um, Salt then being a big export that Filigree sends out. Um, we have to figure out the futility and the ruling houses for Filigree.
Yeah.
So we have some of the things that we're worried about are some of the things that we still need to flesh out is how they're going to do their freshwater, the canals east and west, and the trade cities. We talked about a rogues guild that would be stealing fibrum from the rich and reappropriating it to where it needs to be. Then we talked about hobgoblins being the muscle for the city, sort of honor bound and samurai in that nature. Um, there's a bigger port and navy, and then we talked about the hobgoblins sort of originally found in the crater, and their race was sort of slaughtered. Only group that was left was on a militaristic voyage that ended up ending in Filigree after everything.
Sweet. Perfect. So, there's a lot to cover there. I'm almost feeling like one thing that we haven't done a ton of so far is we haven't done a lot of NPCs in general, right? We've kept
We have
our
not.
we've kept our discussion at guilds or organizations and higher, not or more of a bird's eye. We haven't done a whole lot of like who are the key players on this continent, right?
No, we did talk about Um, where is it? Stan Warwick
Mm-hmm.
being the Wizard Tower over in Solus,
Mm-hmm.
or the Solitude Tower there.
Mm-hmm.
And we did talk about the Revis King a little bit in Stormtide Union, but we didn't really get a name or anything for him.
That's right. So I'm thinking, since we're here in Filigree, should we at least get some of the royalty and some of the key players there named and kind of suss out some of that?
Awesome. I love that idea.
Cool. All right. So one of the things that we talked about was that the Dragonborn are the nobility, the upper class, the aristocratic race, and
And we talked about a couple of things too. Was, do we want this to be chromatic dragons? Do we want this to be metallic dragons? Do we want this to be dragons that we bring stats in for?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think that is it's an interesting question. I think I ended up over the last week kind of feeling like, let me ask you this. The dragon that we're going to put down in the pirate kingdoms, is that going to be um that's going to be a named dragon, right? I imagine
Yeah,
so.
I mean, we talked about it being sort of the ruler, the ultimate ruler of the pirate kingdoms.
Exactly. Well, I'm asking that to say um I wonder if we could get away with saying that in this world the idea of um, dragon type doesn't have anything to do with dragon alignment.
Okay.
Um, that's my preferred way of doing dragons. If I do it in my campaign, like it doesn't matter if it's chromatic or metallic or whatever, they all can be of any spread.
Okay, that makes sense.
um, Now temperaments can be similar, right? So you might say that the like as an example, the white dragon is typically on the more primitive dumb side, right? Lower
Mm-hmm.
intelligence. That can still hold true, but that doesn't mean you can't have a a white dragon or a white dragonborn that is completely a reasonable person or have good intentions. They may still be on the lower intelligence side, but that doesn't mean that they have to be evil as well, right? Um,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
the main reason I thought about this is think about it. The way I thought about it was in your experience with players at the table when they play a Dragonborn, do they play it based off the alignment of the color, or do they just pick the color based off the aesthetic or the damage type of the breath weapon?
I think they pick it because they want to be that color. They don't really play the character around the color of the dragon.
Right. And so when I kind of realized that that's how it's already being used, I'm like, maybe it doesn't matter. And there's really not. I was kind of flipping through. One of the things that even in the player's handbook, what it says about dragon's color is it says Dragonborn tend to extremes, making conscious choice for one side or the other in the cosmic war between good and evil, represented by Bahamut and Tiamat, respectively. Most Dragonborn
Mm-hmm.
are good, but those who side with Tiamat can be terrible villains. So there's no distinction between in color to alignment within the playable race.
For sure.
So we could just do the same for us if we wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Cool. Okay. Well, if we're in agreement, that kind of makes our lives a little bit easier. And I know we're already expanding out the Elemental Born or the Genasi to be a huge swath of
Mm-hmm.
options. So I was like, do we really want a whole bunch more Dragonborn as well? And have literally 16 different Genasi and 16 different Dragonborn to choose from.
Yeah, it would be like, I mean, probably it'd be 16 Genasi and 5 Dragonborn at least.
Yeah. Plus people could still play the player's handbook
Yeah.
Dragonborn, right? So that just seems like a lot, right?
And the one thing I did find is that once this thing goes live, all of these will be linked in our Patreon, so we can have so you'll be able to use like these characters in D&D Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they'll be built out in there, so you'll already ready to go. So if you want to use them in your campaigns, you don't have to do that yourself.
Yep.
It'd be
So
sweet.
anything we create, we're going to try to throw into D&D Beyond. That way, it's easy enough. I know so many of these users, or so many of our users, and so many people are using D&D Beyond. It's hard not to. It's hard to ignore those sources.
Agreed.
So
I mean, I'm not going to promise that it's going to be a fast transition. Especially when we get into monsters and things like that, and we have quite a few to do. Um, and certain things like right now, there's not an option to make a fully custom class, only subclasses on
mm-hmm.
D&D Beyond. So if we ever came up with a class that we were wanting to present, there's just no way to do that right now. But hopefully,
Yes.
give them a few months and maybe that'll come down the pipe. So they're always introducing new stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to put my foot. This is not a guarantee that everything we do will be in D&D Beyond. We have no affiliation, but
Mm-mm.
but but just I thought it was really cool that we could build out the races completely, so people could be running these.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we've kind of settled on dragon types now. So let's talk about this aristocracy. Um, what do you have an idea? What do you imagine this world or the Filigree's ruling class looking like? Are they a certain color or collection of colors to you?
I mean, to me, just again, if we were doing like any color is any alignment, you can have good and bad black dragons. You can have good and bad red dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Of the red, white, blue, black, green,
Mm-hmm.
I love the chromatic dragons
Mm-hmm.
because there's something so nostalgic about those colors.
Exactly. Exactly.
That being said, and you could even have like different. I mean, the other option is to have, because filigree is like silver and shiny and things like that. You could even have like the metallics run different sections of the city
Mm-hmm.
or something. I think that there is no like ruling family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think there is some sort of council of dragons.
I
What do you
think
think?
I think so. I the only thing that came to mind, and I know we can't use these creatures, but I liked how it was kind of set up. You remember the Abishai from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes?
Mm-hmm.
The like dragon fiend humanoid creatures. They have a hierarchy based on color, and I thought that
Okay.
it might be interesting to kind of play with that a little bit. Theirs is like white at the bottom, then black, then green, then blue, then red.
Makes sense.
That's their
Well, we've
presentation.
we've already, if you remember correctly, we've already hierarchies depending on looks too in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked about our elemental born. A lot of their hierarchies in our lore are done by looks.
Mm-hmm.
So our Korg, if they are built more out of gemstones and things like that instead of just earth, um, if they have like gemstones pressed into their skin and stuff like that from birth, they sort of normally take a more natural road to hierarchy than those that don't have those features.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we've already set people up. We're already setting the page for a hierarchy situation.
Yeah, exactly. So the only thing here, right, is do we want like you mentioned, do you want metallics or chromatics? Because I feel like there's 10, right? There's 10 different ones if you lump them all. I feel like 10 is probably too many for one city to be all in one
Mm-hmm.
group, right? Like I don't mind if half of those are there. Hey David, what's going on? Glad you could make it.
Hope your
we,
game was well good tonight. Hope you had a good time.
yeah, we are working on Filigree tonight, David, and um, we
Talking about
are working on
hierarchy of
Dragonborn.
dragons.
Yep. Discussing metallics versus chromatics, we've determined that in the world of Orient, especially with Dragonborn, your coloration of scale does not determine your alignment. Because as we looked in the player's handbook, it's pretty much the same there. I'm sorry, not Orient. Why'd I say Orient? I know why. Ascension,
Yes. Ostwit.
Ostwin. Yep. So,
You really messed this up, David. I think you did this on purpose.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He set us up for failure on purpose, I think. I'm sure.
He knew I'd get a lot of name plugs in at this point. Uh huh. Uh huh. So what we're talking about is there's 10 different types of Dragonborn colorations between the metallics and the chromatics, and kind of feel like that's too many to uh, to put as key players in one city. And
Okay.
so maybe we stick to either the chromatics or the metallics for filigree. Um, and then we're kind of trying to come up with some of the key players, the leaders of the city, with regards to the Dragonborn.
For sure. Um,
3 metallics and 2 chromatics would also be cool, just to get a
so,
variety.
so how do we set up that that status? So is it like chromatics are looked at lower?
I buy that. I buy that.
Tell that to a red dragon, though.
Yeah. Workers are chromatic. I would almost argue that silver is at the top of the food chain, right?
Because it's filigree.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that might be the case.
Yeah. So if we had like silver, maybe like silver, gold,
Yeah.
and uh, yeah, it's silver, gold, and maybe bronze in
Or
the
platinum. Is platinum's a
platinum's
thing,
not.
right?
It's not. It's not. It's bronze, copper, and brass, and then silver and gold. First, second, and third place. Exactly. Except that silver should be first. I think that's. I feel strongly about this since it's the Silver City.
Unless it's ironically the Silver City.
That's true. There could be a history there of it was started by the Silverborn.
The Silver Dragonborn.
Yes. Cool. And then what should we do for our 2 chromatics? What adds good feel?
The other option is instead of you just don't use gold at all, so silver is the highest metallic.
In the city?
You go silver, brass, bronze, or silver, brass, copper, or something.
Yeah,
in this city, not all together.
Sure. I'm fine with either way, honestly.
It all depends on the story we want to tell.
Right.
Because people are gonna ask why there's no gold dragons and there's no prominent gold dragonborn and there's no prominent red dragonborn or whatever it may be.
Synonymous with gold. Yeah, I think you could do like maybe silver, brass, bronze, and that would work. That's pretty easy to do. And I'm just gonna kind of peer at the race and see. So brass has fire, bronze has lightning, and silver has cold. So that's cool.
Yeah, I love the cold. Am I still echoing a little bit?
No, I think for the most part that's gone away.
Cool.
Yeah,
I just did a little tweak on my mic.
perfect. Oh, okay. So yeah, so that's a good idea, David. We had talked about last or this weekend, I think, about the we don't want there to be a million Dragonborn on this continent. Um, they're definitely not a prevalent race. We want them to kind of not be as rare as dragons, but that's kind of the idea. Is that um, they're a long-lived race and slow to breed, and so like elves or something of that nature, there's not an overabundance of them. And you could maybe help explain that, or maybe explain why there's a shortage of certain types by there being a disease.
I also think that there's probably these other color dragons in the city, and they're just not prevalent.
Hmm.
Do you agree? Disagree? So there is red dragons that you see in the city. There is blue dragons. They don't have homes. They're not prevalent here,
It
right?
depends. Yeah, I mean, I am not opposed to certain types being diseased, and also certain types, like, I mean, I look at it like elves, right? Um, Drow are just elves, but they are not found in Baldur's Gate, right? You don't see them because um, they have their own politics and their own allies and their own enemies. And the same could be true with certain colors of Dragonborn, where it's like, yeah, they're on the continent, but they're not welcome in Filigree. So I agree that there's probably more than just these five, but I don't know that you could find representations for all
Gotcha.
10. I
The other
do.
thing is that if we make it so there's not these representation, if you show a blue dragonborn out of nowhere, it makes that NPC special.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you have, and again, I need to write down exactly which ones we're thinking. We talked silver, black.
Brass and bronze, right, so far. Um, I do like. What if? Let me pose something out there. What if the black and white? What if the black and white dragons, dragonborn, are like near extinction? Just to kind of curtail those a little bit. Um, that could be interesting. It could be a type of disease. It could be that their civilizations were in the area of the crater. Um, it could be that the shifting of the deities is just been rough on them. But maybe there's something like that.
Yeah, I think that's all a possibility. I think that we already talked about. I mean, and then we could even tie that in with the hobgoblins, right? So the reason why these hobgoblin goblins ended up as part of Filigree is because um, they're sort of transplants from the crater area. What if they are transplants from the crater area and they used to be part of like some of the other dragons that used to be in the crater area as well?
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of kills out both at the same time.
Yeah. I like the idea. I was thinking along the same lines, David, for blue being maybe another one. Um, and is he's saying that black and white breed out, right? Which could be cool too. Um, they start to fade away. Um, yeah, I like the idea that we're making some of these different colors have their own identities, and it's not just Dragonborn as a race have one identity and they're just a whole bunch of different colors.
Certain wizards from Harry Potter. Do you mean like? Oh, it could be seen themselves as purebred. Gotcha.
Yeah, like not. What is it? I don't know.
Muggle.
I don't. Muggle.
Muggle is the word for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
If you have no magic blood.
Mudbloods. Yeah, mudbloods. There you go.
Mudblood is a terrible word. You can't say mudblood. It's like the F word in Harry Potter or a slew of other racial words.
But wouldn't they call like if you were a mix of two colors, wouldn't they call it like muddled? Right?
Or wouldn't they call you just like bland scale?
Oh, that would be awesome, right? Okay, so let me pose to you that if two dragonborn of different colors crossbreed, their color washes out. Like their children are of no color.
They're just pale.
Like a brown, and
Like
they don't have a
or
breath.
albino dragonborn.
Yeah, they don't have any breath weapon.
What makes them special then?
Yeah,
because if we do this, we have to make one sub race.
yeah, but see, like in the Vampire 5e game, you can play as all these different clans, bloodlines, and you can also play as a thin blood, which is a definitively worse bloodline. To be considered a thin blood is to have less abilities. But some people like that. It's hard mode or whatever, right? It's the same thing as being a human, right? Like you don't get anything cool. It's a blank slate.
That's not true at all. When you're a human, you get a feat.
Some games. um, Muddled Dragon. Yeah, I feel like that could be cool. Or a grayscale. I mean, I know we can't say grayscale would be is used too often, but yeah, you get 2 feet.
I don't get the pun there.
You said as a humans you get a feat.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
I just need to explain what I said. I was trying to think about what I said that would make 2 feet be really funny.
Mm-hmm.
We when my grandmother lost her leg, we actually sent her a card, and the first card we sent her was "Hope you're back on your feet soon," and crossed off feet and put foot on the card.
Mm-hmm.
Like a week after her surgery, where she.
That is
that's
awful.
a good one. She laughed. She still has it. It was one of the. Yes, she did. She woke up one morning and it was just missing, and she's never found it again.
Okay, so this is off topic, but we got to talk about it now. Have you guys seen the documentary on Amazon Prime about the guy who lost his leg, had it amputated, and for some reason I don't remember, and the hospital for some reason let him keep it, and he filled it full of embalming fluid to like preserve it.
Yeah.
And he stuck it in his storage shed or in his storage unit. And then through a series of unfortunate events, he lost that storage unit, and the person who got it ended up owning his leg, and there was a huge legal case over this leg because this guy was literally selling tickets to view a human leg and was profiting off of this freaking guy's foot. So yeah, that's a real documentary. I don't remember what it's called, but it's on Amazon.
Finders Keepers.
Finders Keepers. There you go.
I know what I am watching tonight. I am gonna watch that tonight because that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the guy making money off the other guy's leg definitely got a leg up in life.
Yeah. So I know that's off topic, but it was too much on topic for.
We built our own stream. We're gonna get off topic sometimes.
Yeah. There we go.
This is the reason why we do this.
Of course. So, right. Gray, muddled, brown, Dragonborn. A thing or not a thing? How good do we feel about that?
Gray. Do we want to gray it out? Do we want to? Not a thing, I would think. David says.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. um,
The only way it becomes a thing is if they get something cool.
yeah, and the other thing,
maybe they lose breath weapon, but they get something else.
yeah, and I don't really like. To me, like that kind of defeats the only purpose I had in them. And the only argument that I would really make for them is that by this point in paralysis breath, yeah, that would be cool. But like to me, the only argument for them is that you could then say like it's extremely rare at this point to have a true color, and almost all Dragonborn on the world are the gray because it's been a watered down blended race at this point. And then maybe you put limitations on player options for the true colors. But I don't know that we really want to get into all that.
Seems like a lot to ask. Again, I think we want to make this as inclusive as possible.
Sure. I think I'm in agreement. So that was a rabbit trail, but now we know. So we need one more chromatic. We've got silver, brass, bronze, blue, and one other one. And I think we should save black and white as like dying off or less prevalent.
We want green or red then. Red seems off.
Gosh.
Yeah. The plaid dragon. Yes. We talked about plaid dragons the other day with Tyler.
Yes. Yes, because he suggested different patterns.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I instantly thought of plaid and polka dot dragons.
Yes. I'm gonna say
green, then?
I'm gonna suggest green because we already have green would have a poison breath, right? And we don't have anything with that right
Blue
now.
Blue is lightning.
Yeah, and so is brass, but that's fine.
Is there one that doesn't? We're missing one.
Black has acid, and that's the one that we're missing.
Bronze is also fire, right?
Yep. Bronze is yes, it's fire. No. Yes. No. Yes.
So what's the opposite of black? What else has a black?
No, bronze is acid. No, copper is acid. Copper. Let me be definitive here. Yeah. Copper is acid. Black is acid, and we have neither of those two in Filigree. But those could be elsewhere on the continent. So we're not.
We could take brass out of a copper, and then you'd have one of each breath.
Yeah, we could do that.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it honestly doesn't matter.
Yeah, I kind of like the brass with the lightning, just because I feel like those would be very techy dragons, right?
Yeah, so you have two with lightning, the blue and brass. Plus, brass dragons are just sweet.
Yeah. So we have silver at the top, then brass and bronze, and then down at the bottom are blue and green.
Do we want to put them at the bottom of the cask, or do we want to put them somewhere like in between, less than silver but higher than bronze? And
I like
want to mix them up.
I like the idea that there's still this definitive, even though there's no value to the scales. Probably, I love the idea that there's like this idea that because we have skills that look like a monetary value,
gotcha,
we're better, right? Not that, like, I do feel like the brass dragons are probably, because we have this world as being a little bit more techy, I do feel like they're not so much the ruling class as they are the scientists or the alchemists or artificers and things of that nature.
Oh, I'm picturing a glass or a brass dragon with like a beaker. It's like looking really tight with a pair of glasses that sort of sit at the end of his nose.
Yep. Yes.
And he's looking through a beaker who's pouring into another one.
There's glass dragons in Kobold Press products, I believe, David, and they are pretty cool. There's a lot of great dragons in there.
Glass dragons are the dragons that get hooked on the smack.
Ooh.
Yeah, he said.
You guys are on the same page. Yeah.
Because their whole body is scales, it just slowly replaces the entire thing.
Ooh, that's pretty awesome.
feel like, oh, this is just one big game of drug running now.
Yeah, we're creating a whole race of things, super weak and brittle. Yeah, I think that like this is not a good thing to be. This is why it's not a playable race, is because it basically makes you awful. I like that though. I'm gonna write down Glass Dragon.
Glass dragons are dragons with glass scales that shouldn't throw stones.
Yeah.
They would be also be if you're a playable race, they'd be the glass cannons, so they could be like wizards or sorcerers.
No, glass cannons are when you load up explosive fibrum and fire it.
Oh.
Yeah. We've been working this week, David, on things that fibrum can do other than ascend, have you ascend, and it's been quite fun. We're going to release a limited list of that with Motherload to kind of play test some of the simplest, most streamlined options for alternative uses. And one of them is explosives.
Yepers.
Yeah, it's enchanting or crafting is going to be a later thing. But the idea behind Fibrum right now as a like what we have been working on is like the one-time use applications of Fibrum, so things that you can do that will have a short-term effect but not a permanent one.
An instant effect. Mm-hmm. If you need the OS button.
So different ways, like we have a way for it to explode and deal damage. We have ways that you can melt it and coat a blade and get to do special things for a short period of time, things like that. But we have intentions of it being a full-on crafting opportunity for the hardcover, where yes, you could do things like enchanting. Yeah, expendable. It's for those things like it's a super valuable resource, so the effect that it has is going to be greater than that of a comparable spell, because you're basically reducing your path, your collection or your progress towards godhood every time you use it. So it needs to be very valuable. But yeah,
like the one that we talked about. And I'm just going to use the potion basically, if that's okay with you, Zach.
Yeah, go for it.
So we talked about at if you dissolve Fibrum and it turns into like a potion, it's drinkable, and that potion turns into a 100% healing potion. Basically, the Fibrum dissolves into a vial or something, and it turns into it'll bring you back up full. That being said, once it's used once on a player character, if he tries to do that again with another piece of Fibrum, it only gives him half his HP.
Yeah.
And on the third time, it gives him a quarter of his HP.
Yeah.
So it is this really cool. No, there's no addiction for the true Fibrum.
There will be for biofibrum, which is the like corrupted stuff that you can harvest off of the glass creatures, like the Gizrats, like the glass jaws, and now evidently like the glass dragons. If you eat that stuff, you get other temporary abilities, and they come with addictions. And we haven't messed with that too much, but I'm really excited to. I have some ideas for a one shot that introduces people to the idea of biofibrum and addictions and glass jaws and all that lovely stuff. But yeah, there will be addiction rules. Silver Dragon. Head honcho. You said maybe ruled by a council, like kind of like that for a Filigree.
Yeah, I was thinking that like with Tyler, we were talking about the fact that maybe each dragon had a seat like on a council, and each dragon was in charge of like a different section of the city.
Yeah.
Not saying that there's not like a head honcho, but think of like Game of Thrones with like the Hand of the King and the council they had.
Yeah.
If you had one of each color sitting on this council,
Mm-hmm.
and while the silver dragon is still numero uno, the 4 people are reporting back on different parts of the city, basically.
Yeah. There's probably like 2 or 3 silver because like the head honcho is probably silver, and then he probably has a couple of silvers in the council as well, just to make sure that they always have the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's some representation of the others. Um, so like we talked about maybe one of these dragons having control of the navy, right?
Yeah.
Um,
If we want to put it on the nose, it's probably the blue dragon, right?
it could be. Though blue dragon do not have a swim speed.
Do any of these have a swim speed?
Let's find out. I know that. I feel like of the it's black and green maybe that have swim speeds. Not none of the Dragonborn actually have. You don't have to have swim speed to sail a ship. Absolutely not. You're exactly right. None of the
Bronze dragon is amphibious. That's the dragon, not just the Dragonborn.
bronze. Okay.
Bronze. Brass does not.
Battletoads have a swim speed. They do. Fair enough.
Brass does not.
Yeah, it's very limited. So I am fine with saying let. What about green? Let's double check green real quick. Again, it doesn't really matter because no Dragonborn have swim
Silver does
speeds.
not.
Green dragons
Yep.
have a swim speed. Yep. So green and bronze.
And blue dragons definitely do not either.
But again, none of these humanoid dragons have a swim speed. Period.
Correct.
So,
that doesn't mean they're not affinity to the water.
What if these bronze dragons have a swim speed, and because they have lightning, and I imagined them as being. Let me pull this back up here. Yeah. What if they have like these really interesting? I'm almost thinking like steam or coal powered ships, and that's what keeps the pirates from getting close, or magic powered, if you want to stay away from too much tech advancement. But like I could imagine like some really kick-ass like copper plated rune powered, yeah, like that sort of a thing I think would be really cool. And they have like in my mind what I'm imagining are like these sweet um, like rail guns on the side of the ship that can fire lightning. Would be awesome.
I also love the idea of like dragon teeth on the front of the boat with like coal or something burning on the inside, so you have like this glow with the teeth.
Oh yeah, that could be cool.
Just something different.
Yeah, like their ship design is probably pretty incredible, and they don't have any like they have all the money in the world. Trumpets instead of cannons. Uh yeah. um what do you imagining trumpets doing, David? It just they blow it and it fires like an amplifier. I probably wouldn't call it trumpets, but if you wanted to sell me on uh, hey, what's going on? Welcome to the chat, Eva Sparkles. I'm like I think it's cool that they would have like an amplifier.
Yeah, that is neat.
and it like locks out the weapon for others, right? Which I think is a very smart thing on their part, right? Like, we're gonna have these amazing weapons on our ship, but only we can use them. That's kind of cool. And then we never got to. Did we get to Thomas? Like, who do they have? Do the Dragonborn recruit a different race to man the ships with
We
them?
we talked about hobgoblins being in the city, but we didn't really talk about if that was part of the navy or not.
Yeah, exactly, David. I think they want that. I think they want it to be like immediately noticeable. This is a Filigree ship, and you don't mess with it. Eva Sparkles, we are building Filigree, which is uh, the main city of this continent. And right now we are talking about the Dragonborn, which are the nobility. At least some of them are the nobility of this place. So we're trying to get a good grasp on what their place is. Um, yeah, I think hobgoblins are like the militant class. Um, they they probably, like, their families and whatnot probably make up some of the low tier. Yeah, and then we did say that there is a hobgoblin that is in charge of the uprising guild here in the city. Um, yeah. Um, so I love the idea but I think there was a brief discussion, and I think we could go one of two ways. We could say that either the Dragonborn, the Bronze Dragonborn, man these ships themselves, and they basically said we will be the navy, and we're not going to trust anyone else to do it, or they have recruited their own mercenaries to assist them in this endeavor. In which case, we need to kind of think about who those might be. And it could be humans if we want to find a spot to slide in humans.
Yeah, I think that we talked about humans. We also talked about like lizard folk or another kind of monster race, but we didn't want this to be too just over
Oh,
monstery.
look at that suggestion there by David. That would be
Wizards that are trained by Dragon Breath spell.
the Dragon Breath spell. Yeah. Um, I love the idea. I think humans are cool. I think that's a good spot to slide them in. And then yeah, like, it's a weird, interesting dynamic that the wizards are the soldiers on these ships, and it makes it a very very tough thing to
Well,
decide to go up against.
maybe there's just like human wizards built into the ship, like not built into the ship. That sounds like there's just like
Yes, that's what I
just
want though.
just nailed and attached, but like maybe it's mostly like Dragonborn infantry, but there are human. There every all these ships have some sort of force of these wizards. What we don't want is we don't want to have a whole ship of wizards coming up on if your party decides to go rogue from the pirate isle, they don't want to come up on a whole pirate ship of wizards.
I mean, I think that'd be pretty awesome.
I think you're going to have a ship graveyard outside of Filigree.
One of the things that we have to keep in mind, we can write our own spell for it, but Dragon's Breath is not SRD material as a spell. But like I said, we can write our own spell, so not the end of the world.
Maybe something has to be done to mod their spell focus so it'll function as Dragon Breath. Two and or trumpets will let them use it.
Oh, you have to be attuned to the trumpet. Is a cool, like, it's an actual magic item um, that you have to, like, yeah, connect to before you can use it. Is kind of a cool idea. um, Again, don't get hung up on the fact that we can't use Dragon's Breath, because we'll fix that. Yeah, yeah. it I think you're right in that this can be humans, and we could also have other, this is a place where if the Dragonborn are in control, they could have recruited the best sailors, whatever that means. They could be humans, they could be dwarves, they could be whatever. It can vary ship to ship. Yep. Yep, exactly, David. I think that's really cool. And it also makes it super limited, right? Like, your players aren't going to get, or players or certain individuals are going to have a hard time getting their own versions of these things because they're owned by the wealthiest of individuals and made specifically for them. They're not something that is immediately available to the average person.
Excuse me, I keep yawning. One of those days back, today was the first day back at work from all the COVID crazy.
Cool. I love it. All right, so we know that this is the Navy.
Do we have a name for one captain of this Navy?
Spitfire.
I'm looking for something crusty.
Spitfire is the name of the ship.
Spitfire's the name of the ship. That works.
I think
if it has like the teeth and the grill.
Yeah.
Maybe these trumpets stick out through the teeth. So when it shoots lightning, it comes out of the front of this boat.
Yeah, or they're like, you could design them to look like horns a little bit. So if they're on the head of the dragon, they look like the spiked horns. Yeah. Yeah. David or Eva Sparkles, if you guys have any idea for a cool captain name,
I'm awesome. Thinking something.
Is this like the admiral? Is that what you're?
Yeah, this wanting? Is the one. This is the guy that when something goes wrong, all of the ships go back to admiral whatever.
Is this world a world where it's kind of like I think militaristic on the names, David. But like dragon names in a lot of fantasy are like super long and complex. And in D&D, Dragonborn's clan names are still like that. Yeah, Ark and Voss. Probably not Archon, just because there's a super famous Dragonborn named Archon. But very similar. And maybe Admiral for this fellow, just because he's overseeing the Erkenvoss. That's cool. What do you think about Erkenvoss?
Erkenvoss?
Erkon. Ark. I like Ark a lot. Like ARKE. Dragon name commas. Yeah, exactly. That's these are difficult questions. like I am a big fan of and Star Wars the Chiss names, right? Which are 2 apostrophes. They have their last names are 3 names and divided by apostrophes. And so like Admiral Thrawn is actually like Myth Thrawn Yarudo. And he's called Admiral Thrawn, the second one. And that's how they name people, is 2 apostrophes, and the thing in the middle is your short name. Yeah, exactly, like that. That's how... That's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to find something that makes sense without being way too crazy, because you don't want something way too crazy or else the players are hard time. Like Rasvul.
It would definitely be shortened like that for the common tongue, right? It's just like
Hmm.
Treebeard in Fanghorn, right? It's um, yeah, yeah. I that to me is cool. Like if you look at their stat block and the layout, the stat block is just going to have their nickname. It's only going to be like if you have one that you wrote up with like a backstory or whatever that you might get their full like clan name and everything. But that's going to be few and far between. Kind of. These are all good. I like all the mouth feel of all of these names.
Like this Sasashi.
Do you have a uh, expanded version of Sasashi, Eva?
I mean, you could take the front half of any of these and
Yeah,
just throw it on. So
just weld them together.
it could be like Arc Sasashi or Arkeem Sasashi or Novosa Sasashi. Niviosa. Any of these would work with a comma.
There you go. That's cool. Yeah, let's grab that one. And then let's grab some of these others just so we can use them if we want to later for other Dragonborn. Those are all. All of these look the way I wanted them. I imagine them looking.
You laugh. You make a joke about that, Eva Sparkle. But we have a whole naming table. Every time we find a cool name, we throw it in the thing so we don't have to work as hard later.
Yeah, be awesome. We need like 12 names. Would be awesome. Later on, so
We
we'll have
also
to come back
need
to this.
we also need your services, so we need to find a time to sit down and talk for a minute.
Yeah, we got things to make. Bobcat, Bob O Kita, Kite, Bobcat for short. Listen,
Bobcat
if you make
Bobcat goes to the Pickled Pete for dinner every week.
yes. Also, David, if you want to name your Dragonborn Bobcat, you go for it. You guys need to think of your own names anyway. So, okay. Um, so we feel good about that. Um, kind of. Yeah, that's a good one. Um, what about the military? What brain? Who oversees the military? Who oversees the hobgoblins in town? Of the colors. If bronze is already taken, we have silver, brass, blue, or green. That could hypothetically be over the military. It
Oh, I thought brass is the one we were talking about. Are we talking about bronze being over the boats?
yes, bronze for the boats. They are the
Gotcha.
lightning ones. I love that brass might be it, just because military brass, right?
You think that somebody came in and like, we need to find some brass to take care of this? Oh shit, we've got brass right here.
Yeah, David's saying blue, which is also I did think that maybe it made sense for it to be a chromatic. I just love the idea of brass, but I can work with that. Blue working over the workers, yeah, not really the military. Okay, um, so maybe blue over like the merchants. Is that what you're thinking? Like the merchants guild and all that?
Are we thinking that Silver is part of the city, like part of one of these people looking over someone, or are they just like so high up they're just literally just royalty of the city?
So I think that maybe, yeah. So David's saying blue is merchants and other workers, oversees those. I think that silver would be like the upper nobility, and then also the banks. And then brass would be pure military, and then we would just have to find green. Medici, yeah.
Agreed. Maybe Green is taking care of everything that's not in the city. So all of the people and all of the farms and
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think about what other like head guilds are necessary, right?
the salt guild. Green are just literally there to farm salt.
I think that it would end up falling under the bronze for
Yeah,
the salt because
for sure.
they're the techies.
Mer-
Uh, I think that might, so I would propose that maybe green are responsible for military outside the city and um, um, also like I'm trying to think of like the best way to put this, but um, the region oversight, right? So not the city itself, but like they probably own territory all the way to the Fey Woods, and then probably extending west somewhat. And the green are partly the kind of they oversee the fields and the farms and things like that. They're the what if you're not in the city proper, if you see an official Dragonborn, it's probably a green, like
because they're also the lowest on the totem pole,
yeah,
which
yeah,
makes sense that they'd be outside of the city rather than
yeah.
doing a good job.
They're working with the mud.
Mm-hmm. Scrubs, get out.
Yeah. They're still like upper echelon, right? Like
Yeah,
in the
oh,
system of things, it's just for Dragonborn. Um, they're just barely above how exactly. I think that's exactly right. Like only because of their race are they above hobgoblins. There's probably hobgoblins who have more power within the city. There are certainly hobgoblins that have more power within the city than the green dragonborn, but
probably the
but
green dragon
they would not ever say that. It would not be okay to say that, right? Only
because
maybe.
the head of the house of the green dragonborn would probably have quite a bit of say.
Yeah.
But the everyday green dragonborn would be low on the totem.
Yes. Eva Sparkle's question: Name a filigree. Um, I think the idea there was initially that we just like the word, um, but that probably there is a lot of filigree on like the noble, the like the castle district, right?
Yeah, I think there's silver work throughout like the whole city in the main downtown old town kind of place.
Yeah, yeah, and on the city gates and things like that, right?
And it's sort of like it's like Disney World, right, where they have people come and clean at night all the time because they don't want any of the stuff to. It has salt water all around them. You don't want this all like pitting out and looking terrible. So like there, you see people like working in the city and making sure that this is like the top of the top, and then when they get done, they start over from the beginning and start again.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion,
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely like cleaning crews in Colville's uh, major city of capital. There are certain races that are responsible for the clean up of the city at night. The Nightmen, I think they're called, and like I think gnolls and several other creatures like that are part of that night crew that clear out stuff on a daily basis when everyone else is asleep. Cool. Awesome. So we kind of know something about all of these dragons at this point.
All of these cool races. Yep.
Yep. We know a little bit about the hobgoblins. I think that that's a really good like I feel like I could start to write an adventure for Filigree at this point. Not that I know nearly a quarter of what there is to know about the city, but like we're starting to get the feel of this place down. Do we want to? We've got about what is it? About 20 more minutes. Yeah. Do we want to hop over to? Hey, stand by, guys. Clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. Do we want to hop over to Stormreach?
It's we can either do that or we can do a little bit of
Stormtide.
Of who some of these proper Dragonborn are.
Either way. Chat, do you have a preference of either talking more about Dragonborn?
Eva is saying let's hop over to Stormtide.
Okay, let's do it.
She goes, yes.
Yes. So Stormtide Union is the Riven city. The Riven are the water elemental people. This is their large castle that...
The Revis.
Revis, yes. Yes. And they are trying to go legitimate as much as a pirate nation can. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yes.
Okay.
At least they are trying to come off as legitimate.
Yes. Yes. And we want to kind of play around with the same thing as what we were just doing in Filigree, right? This is another major city that we're trying to kind of get a feel for what it's like, right?
Yes.
And we know that it has channels and canals all through the city, and that there's a portion of the city that's underwater as well, right?
Yeah, like sort of like Venice thing.
Yes.
And then we talked about like the castle sort of being out to sea just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
we also talked about the name Seiche for the pirate lord.
Seiche, yes, S-I-C-H-E, right?
S-E-I-C-H-E, I think.
Okay, perfect. That works. Seiche, in my mind, yeah, quiche. Seiche, in my mind, is a person who is very intentionally gathering allies. At least that's the way I see him. We know that he's got, he's recruited this wizard, right? And yes. He's recruited the gnomes at Revel's Rest. He's someone who is like trying to build relationships with nearby people.
And just so in case no one knows in the chat, because I didn't know, Seiche is a temporary disturbance or oscillation in water level or lake or partially enclosed body of water, especially one caused by changes in atmospheric pressure.
Yeah.
So, and Elementalborn and Genasi and things like that are often named after words that describe their race.
Yes. Aspects of their element. Yeah, it is a real thing. Maybe not all of them, but I love like we have Seiche and we have Slab on the other side of this continent. Slab is a Earth Genasi, Earth Korg. So we like that.
And we'll see one of the first Korgs played in playtest. One of my players is playing a Korg.
Nice, awesome. How do we feel about this? Is more of a king and and his minions sort of a place instead of a council, right? In your mind.
Correct. I think that all the pirate lords, and there's 8 of them, are all like, think about like raiding parties, and this is the lord that sort of found his way here.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all like kingdoms with a true king in each one of these civilizations, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So, what makes this place interesting other than being partially underwater?
The
Partially out to
gnomes.
sea. The gnomes, absolutely.
The
The
gnomes make this. The fact that they are trading with the rest of the world.
hmm What do you think about like have you have you ever been in a shark tunnel?
Yep.
What do you think about like the gnomes having kind of like created glass tunnels um, to get you to the lower reaches of the city? So Eva Sparkles, like shark tunnels are basically um, like in an aquarium, yeah. But there's some that are actually in the ocean. Like if you go to like um, the Bahamas,
Mexico and
yeah,
yeah.
you can like actually walk around at the floor bed, sea floor bed, and see it. Like in my mind, that would be really cool if the gnomes had kind of. They wouldn't be like our modern ones. They would probably be really, really, really thick glass and probably not perfectly clear. But you could, um, you could maneuver your way down and have a semblance of being underwater alongside these amphibious individuals.
So what if we change this around a little bit? I know we talked about having an underwater city. Maybe this city is like a marketplace above water, and most of the entire civilization is underwater in one of these tunnels.
Yeah, I think that that's cool. Like the port is the thing above, right? The
Yeah, and the
docks.
boats, and you see boats, and while you're in this tunnel, as you go a little deeper and deeper, you see boats coming into port above your head.
Yeah, and David saying how dangerous would it be to make these? Very, I think. Would that be a huge tourist draw? Absolutely, right? Like I think that's the. This is the. This is
Gosh,
the
now I want to build this city so bad.
Yeah, I think my proposition would be that these tunnels don't go super deep. Like they go and are built into the coral and the reef around, so
Yeah,
that there's light when it's daylight above. There's light down here.
yeah.
Um,
No, I agree 100%. But
yeah,
it just these stretch out like. So I'm thinking like Earth.
yeah.
I'm drawing something just a little bit right here.
hmm The the port, the world above, the docks would
Well,
be very flat.
I don't know what you can see here. Hold on.
Probably very minimally, but well,
So you can see like see that bubble here. So this is like the Earth, or this is the coast, and then there's some sort of steps that go down into the Earth, and then there's this glass tunnel that takes you to this like domed city. That's what
yeah.
I'm thinking.
I think that there's like certain there's probably elements of the city that are domed and elements of the city that are like only for those that are breathing water, right? Because some of the people aren't going to want to risk. You would design something differently if it was going to be submerged at all times as opposed to if it was going to be in air, right? Um,
Yeah,
as an example,
I
like
th-
you're not going to have a basket of fruit submerged.
I think there's some sort of bubble that in certain places is almost like a film that you can go through. Think I don't know if you know anything about this, but think White Plume Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
where they have that section that's all under the hot water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But think about it that instead of the film that like if it breaks, all the water rushes in. Think about it like some sort of like, ooh, you know how they do like aviaries?
Yes. Hmm.
So you have like a set of doors, and then people walk into a section. You have to wait, and these doors shut, and then they can open these doors and go,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or like a spacewalk.
Hmm.
What if there was at the backside, there was that sort of same connection, and there were homes built like into the coral and thing.
That's what I'm thinking because if I'm a Revis, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna say like, hey, I don't need air, and I don't want to build my home in a dry environment. And if something goes wrong with that film or whatever, I don't want to lose everything just because it's not designed to be submerged. I'd rather just design it to be submerged and live there, right? Um,
Yeah, so there's the bubble that's underwater where most of their stuff is, and there's a market and things like there's a small town above ground on the land, and then um, and that's like so there's like three steps to this, right?
yeah,
There is the stuff that's out on the main area ground, and then you go through this tunnel sort of that leads down to the bottom of the ocean floor, where you have this tunnel above your head, and you can see boats coming in,
yeah,
and you can see fish coming over you, and then you get to this dome bubble that these gnomes have helped you build.
yep,
And the backside, there's this large arch, and it's heavily guarded, and they have one of those like systems
yep,
that you walk into there. Since you're going out in the water anyway, it doesn't matter if that whole thing fills up before they let it drain.
yep.
So you open one door, you go out there, and it's sealed, and then you open the next door and you go out into the ocean.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's a three-step process, and in my mind, just because I love the bizarreness of it, the docks, there's no buildings. It's
Yeah,
just it's just like it's just like wooden docks, and you land, and then all the buildings are actually down below the surface. Like I don't like there would have to be some thought into the practicality of it, but I love the idea of like the weirdness of just seeing all these platforms and then
what if it was
holes.
what if it was like an open market, right? So above ground, all that's above ground is like people who are coming to trade.
Yes.
So there might be like a fight pit that's carved out into the earth or something. There might be bonfires and small carts, and yes, like David's saying, an open air farmers market. Like,
Yep.
so they are trying to be this normal city with everybody else. So their whole goal is to bring people in to this area, to do trade and things like that. So this is the place where you can like pull up your cart and sell your wares throughout the year,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of the time everything else is underwater.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's still a dry part. So these people, if like let's say dwarves came, you could still visit their shops and things.
Oh yeah.
But most of you can't bring like your goods down into their city.
Mm-hmm. No. Probably not. Probably certain trade agreements. Certain individuals would have like license to trade in the city proper.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, just worked out agreements, but there's also the idea, right, that if you're trying to like, if you're merchants that are just exchanging goods to transport elsewhere, you don't want to haul it all the way down and then have to haul it all the way back up. So the
For
open
sure.
air is probably where most trading happens, and the things that go down are probably being delivered to the city itself. Um, that's
Gosh,
cool.
this is where they come back and fight something that's taking over, trying to take over that water Revis's city.
Yeah, yeah.
They can't do it now, but think about a kraken coming in, and the Revis had to have all get into the bubble.
You seen Meg? Have you seen the movie Meg?
No.
So I vouch for this movie. I think it's a great film. It definitely is a blockbuster and nothing more, but it's better than it has any right to be. But there's a moment where they're in this glass tunnel, and the megalodon comes boiling out of the water and chomps down on this tunnel, on this cylinder,
Mm-hmm.
and like cracks the glass. You know, its teeth, like you see the
Hmm.
interior of its mouth, and it cracks the glass as it tries to bite down. But the glass is like 2 feet thick or whatever, so
Hmm.
it can't get through. But say all that to say that, like, think about that with like a kraken assaulting this
Yeah,
domed
so like
city.
maybe this Revis king or this Revis lord calls for them later on or something like that, or they're sent back. And this basically they pull into this city, and all they see is this giant eye against the bubble or something.
Yeah, I think so.
That's just and everybody is you see the streets are crowded underneath the water here and everything else,
Yeah.
and they're and you don't know what's going on, and then all of a sudden you realize that all these people that lived out in the ocean are now retreating into the city.
Thank you for the follow, Talon and Claw. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. We're excited. One of the things we need to say is that we have the Talon and Claw Kickstarter coming up. We've said it on all of our others as we've closed. Um, Kickstarter starts on Friday. I'm super excited. For those that don't know, right now, Talon and Claw has a whiskey barrel dice vault coming out on Kickstarter, um, starting on the 15th, and they are gorgeous.
Yes. We're really excited about that, and I think Anthony's going to join us on stream next week.
Yeah,
So
next Tuesday.
we'll be chatting about that and about the world and all sorts of goodness. So we're pretty hyped. We're excited to work with Anthony's hopefully in the future.
Yeah, oh for sure.
So we are right at the end of the stream time here, Thomas. So I think we're already transitioning out of world building. So do we want to kind of wrap it up with some news or any announcements, and then call it good for the evening?
Yeah, for sure. Is there? Why don't you start that, and I'll fill in anything because I fumbled through it there at the end.
Oh, you're fine. So our next uh, our next stream will be this weekend, where we stream some more Ascension world building. It will probably be late Saturday evening, but we'll know better and we'll send out a notice ahead of time. Um, After that, be sure to check out Dungeon Monday nights at 9 p.m. Central. Um, those are the
Every
two
other Monday.
every other Monday. So it'll be a week from the upcoming one.
Mhm.
Other than that, we have a couple products that are getting that have been released for Eberron this month. Eberron Salvation expanded and Eberron Kalishtar expanded. You can find those on the DM's Guild. Those are written by me, Troy Sandlin, and John Christian. John Christian was a guest on our show a few weeks ago. We really like those guys and really proud of that product. And then, yeah, I'll go ahead and reiterate Talon Claw's Kickstarter coming up this Friday. And then later on in the month, we'll have another Kickstarter launching with some of our good friends here in chat, and we'll share more information about that as we get closer to time.
Awesome, and we'll go ahead and link the Talon and Claw pre-signups on show notes today.
Mm-hmm. And then the
So
last thing to mention is that I believe in just a couple weeks, we're going to be seeing the Origins online schedules being released, and both Thomas and I are going to be running games online for that. So if you want to play with us, just keep an eye on our channel, keep an eye out on Origins social media, and we'll let you guys know. We'll let you guys know when those games are available and what we're going to be playing.
yeah, for sure.
Because we would love to play with some of you guys on some of those slots.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a lot of fun. Or we can all get in and just harass Zach completely.
Yeah, that's fine too. We'll be all right. Okay. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Um, we are making really good progress with this world. Adventure number one, actually, trilogy number one is written. It is being revised, and it is going to be starting to be play tested in 2 waves starting this week. So we're really excited about that. And a trilogy number two has been outlined, and it is on its way to being fleshed out. So we're making really good time with both of those, and hopefully in the not too distant future, we might end up with some art to get hyped about. So,
We also, on top of everything, our Patreon is going to start seeing some work probably even this week. So we've been trying to do some Patreon here, try to figure out exactly what we needed. And we're going to get some stuff in there. And we're even talking about some, if you're a mini fan or any, we're talking about a mini tier and some other options.
yep, yep. We're gonna have an option for you to get some minis every quarter that will help you when you run your Ascension adventures. So, you got a preview one you want to show them real quick before we
Yeah, I've
sign
got a
off?
couple, like this Sweet Fey Owlbear.
Yep,
Can you
that's
see it
awesome.
well?
Yep, that looks real good.
What other good ones? We have this awesome Griffin Rider. I don't have any. I don't have any glue, so I haven't been putting anything together. So we were talking about some dwarves. So we've got things like that guy, which is a dwarf on the back of a griffin.
Yes.
Some other things. I don't have. I wasn't fully ready to start showing anything, sort of just throwing that together. So I don't have anything like mocked up really nice yet. But yeah, it looks like we're going to be having anywhere between a couple minis, probably $20 to $40 worth of minis every month in our Patreon, and it's going to be in the $25 range.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
that's a little value for you. It helps us fund some of these Kickstarters, some more art and nice things for our Kickstarters.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
So,
thanks, guys, for tuning in, and we will see you this weekend.
absolutely.